Time for Heat 3 for DD2 and DD2 Masters. Here is your starting grid. So, David Outleichner, once again, will start from pole position. Alongside him will be Denmark's Rasmus Vendelbo. Martin van Leeuwen, along with Outleichner, have picked up a win apiece in DD2 here today. He starts on the inside of row 2 and will be joined by Denmark's Carl Gustav Borgaard. It's the Netherlands and Denmark on row number 3, with Enzo Bol joined by Martin Henkel Mortensen. The Czech Republic and Finland on row 4 with Jakob Bezel and Axel Sarniala. Jules Cousin from France and Latvia's Patrick Snols-Lokmelis ran out the top 10. Dennis Thum will again start from the inside of row number 6 and he'll be joined by Austria's Manuel Tenschert. Nicolas Guillaume and Maxime Sicherko, row number 7. Ville Villainen and Christophe Capitan, row number 8. Philip Moitzi from Austria, Victor Frostbay and Yannick Nielsen, both from Denmark, with Nicolas Picot from France rounding out the top 20. Sebastian Schul, Pere Bezel, Leonardo Baccaglini, Ilias Kaliakmanis, Martina Stankiewicz, Karl Klebor, Michael Becker, Jere Kokalainen, Igor Mukin, Tony Hogg, Kamil Kubera and Maxim Dirix will round out the 32-strong grid, with Lucas Pano out after having his appendix removed earlier on today, but good to see that he's still watching. Good knowledge by watching what the opponents are doing, Lucas, so get well soon, buddy. So 10 minutes plus an additional lap. So far today, it's been 1 win for David Outleichner and 1 win for Martin van Leeuwen, who will get 2 out of 3. So far in DD2 Masters, fortune has favoured France's Christophe Capitan in the 5.99. Despite the fact that Dennis Thum has had the pace to be at the sharp end of the field. He demonstrated that last weekend in DD2 Masters at the BNL Karting Series. So 32 drivers will start to line up in the customary rolling start formation. The red lights on the gantry, as they are keeping us waiting. The revs now start to rise. Are we ready? Are we steady? The final DD2 and Masters Heat gets underway. And I think Axel Sarniala might be infracting, might get a penalty for breaking the formation slightly early. Wasn't 100% sure if he did go before the lights went out, but they are all making their way through turns 3, 4 and 5. Michael Becker losing a lot of positions. He's still running on the same chassis that he raced with in the BNL Karting Series last weekend. And he's round in 30th position at the moment, so lost a lot of places at the start of the grid from 27th. He's lost 3 positions. But at the front of the field, it's David Outleichner. But Enzo Bol is now up into 2nd. He got past Martin van Leeuwen very, very early, as there was a move from Jakob Bezel. And that was on the 4.51 of Jules Cousin from France. But Enzo Bol now has the race lead after the opening lap. Now David Outleichner fires straight back at the youngster from the Netherlands, through into turns 1 and 2. So at the moment, it is Outleichner from Bol, from Van Leeuwen and Sarniala at the end of that quartet. And then it's Jakob Bezel, Jules Cousin. Dennis Thum, however, has rocketed up from 11th to 7th. Drivers now making their way down into turn number 7. It's getting a bit close between 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th, as Enzo Bol is leading that train. But Outleichner has got about a 2 to 3 kart length advantage. And that was very, very close indeed. But there was a change for position. Jules Cousin past Jakob Bezel. That's for 5th place. Dennis Thum is there. And I thought as much. Axel Sarniala has just been pinged for a 5-second time penalty for breaking the formation with all 4 wheels out of the tram lines, as Enzo Bol loses out 2nd position to Martin van Leeuwen from the Netherlands. So Sarniala has got to get a move on. And behind them, there is the train led by Jules Cousin from France in the 4.51. And that is a launch up the inside of the 5.29 of Kamil Kubera by Igor Mukin, representing Cyprus. 7 minutes and 28 seconds plus an additional lap on the clock still to go. And Altleichner is trying to pull away early. Saniala gets on with the task at hand to get as far up the order as possible and try and pull a gap. But that's easier said than done in this ultra-competitive field. Saniala up to P3. There's a 5-second time penalty hanging over him for completely breaking the formation before the lights went out. So all 32 drivers that started the race are carrying on. Maxim Dirix already up from last on the grid to 22nd position. Running out the top 10, it is Martin Henkel Mortensen from Denmark in the 4:27. Dennis Thum has just got Rasmus Vendelbo up the inside, and they're going side wall to side wall down the start-finish straight. They even bump wheels, and Vendelbo gets through. Now keep your eyes behind, because you've got Jakob Bezel and Patrick Snolzlock-Mellis and Martin Henkel Mortensen. A quintet of drivers separated by next to nothing. Oh, and that was a bit of a bump from behind on Jakob Bezel by Patrick Snolzlock-Mellis, and that has allowed Martin Henkel Mortensen to get through on the Czech Republic driver. Coming out of turn number 6. Nearly afforded the opportunity that Lock-Mellis could have opened the door for Mortensen going down the Europolon into turn 7. And now 2 Sodi karts going side pod to side pod. That was Philip Moitzi on Jakob Bezel. As now David Altleichner has got the cavalry coming in his general direction. And there has been a 5-second penalty heading the way of the 4:22 of Peter Bezel. And Peter Bezel at the moment is currently down in 15th position. That is going to knock him out of the top 20. But Altleichner at the moment is hanging on to the race lead. But with 4 minutes and 30 seconds still to go on the timer, Altleichner still leads, but Saniala lunges up the inside, takes the race lead. Altleichner instantly counter-attacks and then allows the opportunity for Martin van Leeuwen to get through on him for P2. The way things are looking, with the 5-second time penalty, Axel Saniala will end up 15th. The way things are going, if it ends as it does now. Altleichner looks up the inside of van Leeuwen going through into turn 7 on the braking zone. Enzo Bol is waiting in the wings, so at the moment the de facto race leader is the driver in 2nd position. That is Martin van Leeuwen from the Netherlands. David Altleichner in 2nd, Enzo Bol in 3rd, but on the road at the moment, Axel Saniala, despite having broken the tram lines, as Enzo Bol up the inside of Altleichner. That's for P3 on the road. 3 minutes and 35 seconds still to go, and Altleichner looks to thread the eye of the needle. Going into turns 1 and 2. And there is still a lengthy train coming out of turn number 6. But we still have 3 minutes to go on the clock. Dennis Thum, however, has got himself into 6th position, which invariably will end up being 5th. As all send up the inside, that was Patrick Snolzlock-Mellis on Dennis Thum. And then a little bit further back, that was more than likely Peter Bezel on Jules Cousin. Cousin has dropped out of the top 5. Saniala leads, but Van Leeuwen decides now is the time to go up the inside of the 20-year-old from Espoo in Finland. and take the race lead. Enzo Bol and David Outleichner still battling for P3 on the road as it stands. More moves happening up and down the order. Oh, that was a bit of a moment there. One wheel on the grass and in the dust for Jules Cousin, as that was Peter Bezel to his immediate right-hand side coming out of turn number 6. So all 32 drivers at this moment are still running with 1 minute and 45 still to go. Jules Cousin has up the inside and past. That is Carl Gustav Borgard. As now David Outleichner gets through at turn 2 on Enzo Bol for 3rd place. The way things are happening at the moment, Axel Saniala could still find himself in the top 10 at the end of it all, because he is currently not that far behind Martin van Leeuwen from the Netherlands. And at the moment, with a 5-second time penalty, that would put him down to 10th position. Just under 60 seconds to go in the final heat for DD2. And DD2 Masters, Van Leeuwen leads overall. Dennis Toom leads in Masters in 7th position. Now Outleichner sends it up the inside of Saniala. He doesn't want to settle for 2nd. He's wanting to go for the win. Enzo Bol will not hang around either. Down the Europlan once again. We're on lap number 11 of this race. And Van Leeuwen has started to stretch a slight lead over David Outleichner in the latter stages. Saniala looks over his right shoulder and sees that there's more than just Enzo Bol behind him. One more lap remains. Van Leeuwen will put himself in the prime position for tomorrow's pre-final. He goes on to the final lap of this race and of today for DD2 and DD2 Masters. Dennis Toom still leads DD2 Masters in 7th position overall. Axel Saniala finds himself down in 4th position. A second off of the race leader after 11 laps of competitive action here at Karting Genk. And he will more than likely end up in 9th position when it's all said and done. Our leader now makes his way down into the 10th corner for the final time, as defence happening from Rasmus van der Boe in front of Patrick Snolls-Lockmelis. One win for Outleichner, who's going to finish runner-up again. But out of the final corner, Martin van Leeuwen from the Netherlands will take the win in the final heat of the day. Dennis Toom wins DD2 Masters, 7th overall, breaking the winning streak of Christophe Capitain, who will finish a lot further down the order, more than likely 15th. But Martin van Leeuwen takes a 2nd win in a row, and that, with his 2nd place in the opening heat, provisionally by my calculations, puts him at the top of the rankings for DD2 after today. David Outleichner, a win and 2 seconds will put him alongside on the front row. Enzo Bol takes 3rd. Axel Saniala will finish down in 10th position. Well, 9th position after it's all said and done, finishing fractionally ahead of Ville Villainen. But then you also have the likes of Rasmus van der Boe, 5th, Patrick Snolls-Lockmelis, Dennis Toom in 7th, winning DD2 Masters. Martin Henkel Morrison rounds off the day with a top 8 finish, ahead of Jakob Bezel, Ville Villainen, Philip Moitzi, Peter Bezel, Yannick Nielsen, Carl Gustav Borgard, Christophe Capitain, Nicolas Picot, Manuel Tenchet, Maxim Secherko, Maxim Dirix finishing 19th, making up 13 positions from last on the grid. Ahead of Victor Frostbay, Leonardo Baccaglini, Jules Cousin, Sebastian Schul, Nicolas Guillaume, Martina Stankiewicz, Michael Becker, Karl Klebor, Ilias Kaliakmanis, Igor Mukin, Jere Kokalainen, Camille Mubera, and Tony Hogg being the last of the full 32 starters on this grid, completing 12 laps. So the third and final DD2 and DD2 Masters race would see who would be top of the pops, so to speak, top of the rankings, after two intense competitive races earlier on today. The final handshakes, the final words of wisdom being given to the drivers ahead of their racing. Even Martinas Stankiewicz was doing some aerobic warm-up on the pre-grid, and he wasn't the only one. But they kept us waiting long enough, and straight away Axel Saniala broke formation before the red lights went out, thereby copping a 5-second time penalty with all four wheels out of the tram lines as the field hurtled their way into turn numbers 1 and 2. David Altleichner would initially take the lead, but quickly the youngster Enzo Boll would make good his intentions and spring to the front of the field early in the race. But then some battling happening up and down the order with the likes of Jakob Bezel and also Jules Cousin saw some great overtaking occur. Axel Saniala, despite the 5-second time penalty, would surge his way towards the sharp end of the grid, as Dennis Thurm, despite being in DD2 Masters, was on the pace of the sharp end of the field in DD2. Saniala would then go past David Altleichner into turn 2 before the halfway point of the race, and Altleichner would try and counter-attack, but Martin van Leeuwen was there waiting in the wings to pick up the pieces. And even with that, Enzo Boll would get past David Altleichner for what was third on the road, but also would end up being second after the checkered flag would fall. Van Leeuwen then decided it was his time to lead the field and knew that there was a 5-second penalty coming Axel Saniala's way. Some other great overtaking from the likes of Carl Gustav Borgard with this move up the inside of Jules Cousin into turn number 12, getting past the 599 of two-time heat winner today, Christophe Capitan. But Martin van Leeuwen books his place on provisional pole position for tomorrow's pre-final, with Dennis Thurm breaking Christophe Capitan's win streak in DD2 Masters.